It is my honor and privilege to serve as the 12th president of the world's largest pilot union. Alongside my fellow national officers and everyone in this room, we are working to ensure that ALPA remains the most powerful and an influential pilot union in the world. Being a union airline pilot is something to be proud of, and that is due to the work of those that came before us and the work each of you continue to do day in and day out. Thank you for stepping up to help lead our union, a union that defines our profession. It is your collective work on behalf of all of our members that protects their careers and ensures the safety of the passengers, cargo, crew, and the communities under our wings. Together, we must continue this work to keep our union moving forward. Let me begin by acknowledging my fellow national officers. Wendy, Sean, Wes, thank you for being great teammates and your hard work that has contributed to the many successes we have achieved over almost our 2 years together. I would also like to recognize another very special individual who started this journey with us, Tyler Hawkins. Tyler and I share a vision of setting up our great association for the next generation, and brother, we are continuing what we started. Congratulations on your position at United, but don't get too comfortable because we're going to drag you back in. You're too talented to slip away. These past 2 years have shown us time and time again that unity is our strength. Through unity, we secured significant contractual gains for over a dozen pilot groups, merged with the largest independent pilot union in Canada, making ALPA the bargaining agent for over 95% of the professional pilots in Canada. We did this by focusing on doing what is right rather than listening to the naysayers who said that it could never be done. We fought corporate interests to protect aviation safety and security. We successfully advocated for an FAA reauthorization bill that prioritized safety and workers' rights. We reestablished ALPA as a global leader by bringing international attention to the threat of reduced crew operations. We reaffirmed and demonstrated our commitment to union solidarity as true union partners in North America and across the globe. And we improved how ALPA does business to better serve our members. While this is impressive, we all know there's more to do. I'll tell you, this term did not start off quietly. After a short transition while wrapping up our agreement at Delta, we hit the ground running. Within a month of my term, I was asked to testify before Congress. Over a dozen pilot groups were at the end stages of negotiations, and the NTSB was investigating events involving several ALPA-represented airlines. Historically, crews being interviewed by the NTSB could not consent to an audio recording of an investigation interview. However, with the art of note-taking going the way of flip phones, the NTSB was insisting on recording pilot interviews. ALPA insisted that protections be put in place for these recordings. An NTSB investigation is one of the clearest ways the benefits of ALPA membership are demonstrated. Rather than folding our arms and complaining to the media, we relied on our experience in aviation investigation and practiced our deliberate and disciplined approach, silence the bell, work the problem. We engaged our partners at the NTSB, discussed the change, and worked to protect our members' testimony. While others protested that regulations prohibited recording interviews, the inspector's handbook is subject to change as the NTSB sees fit, no different than what one of our airlines could do with a non-contractual flight ops manual. Ultimately, after significant time and effort by our team, I worked directly with Chair Hominy to ensure any recordings would be destroyed no later than the completion of the investigation, and that only the written testimony and transcript would remain. We did not give up and complain when faced with this shift. We collaborated with our partners at the NTSB to ensure our pilots are actually better protected than they were before. In late 22 and early 23, we seized on the unique opportunity we found ourselves in, where we had both negotiations stalled by COVID pandemic and several contracts becoming amendable at the same time. We took full advantage of that opportunity to negotiate significant contractual improvements using the success of each pilot group to benefit all the other pilot groups also in negotiations. ALPA leaders used this momentum to rip down barriers that previously kept us from working together and committed to act as one union rather than 41 separate groups, to improve contracts and strengthen the future of our profession. We broke the mold. Rather than competition, we sparked a spirit of collaboration between pilot groups that didn't exist before, and it paid off. We won tens of billions of dollars of added value to our contracts and earned massive quality of life improvements. I salute everyone who worked to secure the most recent deal at Air Canada. Pilots ratified their first ALPA contract and took a significant step towards closing the cross-border wage gap. Across pilot groups, borders, equipment, bases, and status, we're now collaborating to raise the bar for our members and our industry. None of this happened by chance or good luck. It was the result of hard work and skilled negotiations informed by decades of lessons learned and applied. I'm proud of the work we've done to revamp the National SPSC to serve as a critical resource for pilot groups as they plan and execute negotiations. The SPSC and the National Strategic Planning Committee became the go-to resource for strategic planning, shared experiences, and the latest and most effective best practices for achieving the pilot group's goals and objectives. The SPSC is a perfect example of where we broke the mold and put aside the ALPA has always done it that way, or we do it this way for a reason mentality. I was told by some that shaking up SPSC and bringing it into this century, bringing more value to our MECs and our members, would actually be devastating and kill ALPA. Not the case. I'm so proud of what Ronan and his team have achieved, and you'll hear more from him during the committee reports. And I thank the MECs that loan their experience to us to help continually improve our product. The days of us versus them between MECs and our union are over. We all benefit from the collaboration or experience of other pilots who have done it before. That is the whole point of being part of an international union like ALPA. This is seen when we welcome our new pilot groups into our union by providing every resource, every ounce of our experience, and every idea we can to help them reach a stronger contract. We're committed to offering that same welcome to the 3 pilot groups that joined our ranks since we last met, and any pilot group like the one at Porter considering joining ALPA. ALPA pilots have also joined in solidarity as Air Canada, ATI, FedEx, United, WestJet, and WestJet Encore hosted extensive picketing events and joined Breeze for their first informational picket. These displays of solidarity were fundamental to the success in negotiations that pilots at many of these carriers experienced after their pickets and are key to making progress for those still in negotiating. While we secured significant contractual improvements for many of our pilot groups that are still working, there's still more work to do. We are committed to continuing to deploy all available resources to support those still in negotiations. However, we know that our contracts are only as good as our ability to enforce them. We've long had a national collective bargaining committee, but it's hard to believe that we didn't have a national grievance committee to support our MECs with contract enforcement. Clearly, something that is badly needed to hold managements accountable to the deals we make. So I'm pleased to announce we've set up the President's Grievance Committee to provide national strategy, coordination, and planning for how we address contract enforcement. And a big thank you to the JetBlue MEC who brought this idea forward. Additionally, we continue to be committed to supporting any ALPA pilot facing turbulent times at their airline. While there was some limited success at mitigation, earlier this year, 169 Spirit pilots were furloughed. And we're working closely with the MEC and company to advocate for our members in the event of a potential merger or bankruptcy. At Mesa, 53 pilots were furloughed, and we're working hard to get them back to flying the line. We continue to support the pilots of iAero and Lynx, who ceased operations earlier this year, and the pilots of New Pacific/Raven Alaska through their corporate restructuring. I was furloughed at the start of my career, and I understand the pain and uncertainty that these pilots are facing. But ALPA is prepared to aid any pilot facing furlough or any other career uncertainty. I would like to thank the Delta MEC for hosting ALPA National-sponsored hiring symposiums, as well as the several other carriers that have stepped up to help these pilots in need. Our commitment to supporting each other when one of our pilots groups is struggling tells the story of solidarity and strength of our union. It isn't just our work at the negotiating table and with management where ALPA shows up for our members. Through our advocacy, industrial engagement, and international leadership, we are prioritizing safety. As the U.S. House and Senate began their process of reauthorizing the FAA last year, ALPA launched an all-out effort to put safety and our priorities front and center. This was an uphill battle against some who saw reauthorization as a chance to cut costs at the expense of safety, and were backed by powerful voices like the former Speaker of the House and Senator Ted Cruz, who seem more focused on his pet projects than actually advancing a bill. However, because ALPA has established itself as a powerful, credible voice in Washington, we were able to beat these efforts back. We used every tool available to us. Our district advocates had meetings with their representatives. I was in regular contact with key leaders in the U.S. Senate, including Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, Commerce Chair Maria Cantwell, and Illinois' own, a true aviation safety champion, Senator Tammy Duckworth, about our priorities, and I testified multiple times before the House and Senate. We grew ALPA PAC to help open these doors with a new Benke 1931 level. We launched targeted paid advertising, worked with our contacts in the news media to set the story straight, and our team of professionals in Washington worked day and night to skillfully advance our pilot partisan agenda. The work, time, and commitment to promoting our agenda paid off, and we secured a bill that didn't just preserve the status quo, but advanced safety. In that final bill, ALPA advocated for and won enhanced runway and airport alerting systems, crew protections against FAA certificate and employer discipline related to CVRs, aeromedical reforms to better address mental health, the special issuance process and the backlog of cases at the FAA, a standardized system for reporting smoke and fume events on passenger-carrying aircraft and improvements to cabin air quality, and a pathway to require secondary barriers for existing passenger aircraft. In equal importance to the work we got in the bill is what we actually kept out of it. The bill did not weaken first officer training and qualification rules. This is a huge testament to our strategy over the last decade to reiterate that pilot training rules are a direct contributor to the safest period in air travel history. The bill did not change pilot retirement age, which is an ALPA policy then directed by this body through the strategic plan and was affirmed through the polling of our membership. The bill did not include video recorders on the flight deck, a very real proposal that was in the initial language that we defeated. The bill did not include any provisions, proposals, or studies to permit any reduced crew operations. In fact, the bill includes a prohibition on including 121 operations review in the new Unmanned and Autonomous Flight Advisory Committee. And the bill did not include any preemption of state labor laws. Put simply, ALPA won. We are the voice for pilots and aviation safety, because of our united voice through the commitment of our district advocates, PAC donors, and all of our government affairs volunteers, leaders, and staff. Thank you to everyone who contributed time, energy, effort, and money for this fight. This is not a victory lap. I do recognize that as we followed the policy directed by this board through the strategic plan in opposing the increase to retirement age, approximately 1 in 4 of our members felt differently. This is not unexpected in a bottom-up democratic organization, debate, discussion, and ultimately decisions being made by the majority. However, we have work to do going forward to ensure all members, including those that felt differently on this issue, stand together in solidarity with us as we tackle the many significant threats to our profession, including the preemption of state and local benefits, attacks on labor in this country, and our largest threat to safety, reduced crew operations. Just because the FAA reauthorization bill has passed does not mean we are going to throttle back. In fact, with the new administration and new Congress come January, strategy planning is already underway on how we're going to introduce ALPA to the new elected leaders in Washington and educate policymakers about our priorities. In Congress and the federal regulatory agencies, we're continuing to advocate for one level of safety and security, working with our allies to ensure that all scheduled passenger airlines are held to the same safety standards by closing the Part 135 public charter loophole. I have had meetings with Transportation Secretary Buttigieg and FAA Administrator Whitaker to advocate for ALPA priorities. I can tell you the CEOs of JSX, Contour, and SkyWest don't particularly care for me right now, but guess what? I'm not here to make friends at the expense of safety. ALPA has been, no more than right now, the safety conscience of the industry. And we will not rest until there truly is one level of safety. And we have defended the attacks by special interests to go backwards. As the House and Senate take action on the Department of Homeland Security appropriations bill, we secured an increase in funding for the FFDO program in the House bill, and we expect it to be included in the Senate version later this year. We are keeping this program on the radar for lawmakers as a cost-effective and mission-critical component of our layered aviation safety protocol. In the dark of night and intentionally without our input, at the request of airlines, several states passed laws that excluded flight crew from state sick leave and other benefits. Since this came on our radar, we've made great strides in rolling these exclusions back, thanks to the hard work of local advocates in Minnesota and Illinois, and through a court case in Michigan. Recognizing that the industry will continue to use state legislators to deny flight crews state labor benefits, the Executive Council approved my request to have ALPA National fund local labor council affiliations and assume a more active role in state and local advocacy. I'd like to thank the many pilot volunteers who raised their hands to help monitor and participate in state and local levels. This fight is far from over, however. Together, we can combat industry assaults on worker rights. In Canada, we also had significant labor wins, securing new protections for labor rights to prevent employers from using replacement workers during a strike or weaponizing the essential service provisions against labor. I certainly don't want to steal Tim's thunder, so I won't dive into the details. However, Tim will elaborate in his report on all the ways we're speaking with one voice to advocate for safety and protection for our Canadian members. In the past 2 years, we've reestablished ourselves as members and leaders of the global labor movement. ALPA pilots now hold 9 elected officers at IFALPA. I serve as the executive vice president at the AFL-CIO, and we rejoined the International Transport Workers Federation. Since joining the ITF, ALPA's leadership and expertise have already been recognized, being elected to key positions at our first Congress earlier this month. I'd like to recognize Wendy for being elected as a North American regional member to the Women Transport Workers Committee, as well as the Executive Board. And Air Canada First Officer Luke Arsenault, elected as a North American regional member of the Young Transport Workers Committee. I was elected to serve on the Civil Aviation section, setting policy for aviation workers and bringing our issues, ALPA issues, to the world stage, and gaining us representation at the ILO as it studies aviation labor issues, as well as another means of influence at ICAO, which is front and center for policy affecting safety of our profession. Being in the world's largest pilot union should be more than a talking point. It should mean using our strength and our solidarity to effect change and advance the cause of pilots and other workers around the globe. And that's exactly what we're doing. I'll talk more about our single greatest threat and what we're doing to prevent single pilot and reduced crew operations in a separate presentation. But our national and international partnerships on this issue are an extension of the extraordinary work of our air safety organization. Our commitment to safety, which is as true today as it was in 1931, and the work of our dedicated ASO volunteers have a lasting impact on our work and the lives that touch our industry. ALPA subject matter experts are always ready to step up when our industry needs advocacy for safety and for pilots. There are several examples of where ALPA safety has never been better represented through the industry and regulatory agencies, with ASO subject matter expert direct participation. One excellent example was evidenced this year when the FAA assembled the Mental Health and Aviation Medical Clearances Aviation Rulemaking Committee. Try saying that twice fast. From the onset, we made it clear that ALPA should have a leadership role in that process, and we were heard. ALPA was asked to co-chair the committee, and I took the opportunity to appoint our pilot assistance chair, Travis Ludwig of United, to serve as our representative. Seeking help should not be a career-ending action, and we're committed to working with the FAA to change their antiquated ways of addressing this issue. The mental health ARC had a tri-chair setup with the FAA, ALPA, and industry holding the 3 seats. I can tell you that during that process, I saw Travis and the A4A rep locked in an office at our Valo headquarters, in early and out late. That's a testament to the dedication of our volunteers and staff working on behalf of our members. For 93 years, ALPA has held a leading role in safety in the US, and we're working to reinforce that role in Canada as we develop best practices for carriers to advocate for more consistency with labor's role in safety programs. Aviation safety is a key pillar of our work, and you'll hear more from Wendy about the work of our air safety organization. At the same time, we are using our experience to strengthen safety. We are strengthening how we operate internally. For the first time in our history, ALPA offered to return national dues money to our members, an achievement that should already be reflected in everyone's bank accounts. The unprecedented offer to return $50 million of dues is a reflection of a union that is strong, healthy, and effectively demanding the best for our members. Wes will provide more details on our financial strength in his report. I'd like to commend the Structure, Services, and Finance Review Committee, the Executive Council, and my fellow national officers for carrying out the necessary due diligence and supporting the decision to offer return dues to our members. Representing nearly 30% of the dues that went to national and almost 16% of total dues, this return comes entirely from ALPA national funds. In my opinion, being responsible stewards of our members' resources, while at the same time maximizing their return on investment of their hard-earned dues dollars, this decision was a no-brainer. This first of kind event wasn't easy from an administrative perspective. I'd like to thank our finance, IT, legal, and communications team for the countless hours spent making this return happen. Our commitment is that ALPA membership will always work as an investment in strengthening the future of your career and our profession. Our members expect a return on that investment, and we're giving it to them. The SAFER Committee and the Executive Council are continuing their top-down review of other recommendations for long-term policy, changes related to ALPA finances, appropriate reserve levels, projected surpluses, and appropriate dues rates. Together, we've accomplished much over the past 2 years. But as an honest broker, I stand in front of you acknowledging that there's still a lot of work to do to ensure that we are delivering the highest quality service to our members. When this administration took office, we knew there were pain points on how MECs and local representatives worked with ALPA National. And we are working with our staff and other pilot leaders to identify challenges and find solutions. One of the areas we are actively working to address is our procurement process. Increased demands for swag, compounded by supply issues coming out of COVID, and our desire to use union vendors has led to several challenges. To address this internal pain point, we are actively recruiting for additional staff position, and our finance, communications, and IT teams have been working on a new work request system which will launch early next year. The new system will feature a clearer approval process, more intuitive forms, submission requirements, and better status tracking of open jobs. We are also opening our vendor process to give MECs and LECs more options for quick turn projects and allocated more staff resources to the entire purchasing process. The work continues, and I take it as an ongoing deliverable. In addition to improving our purchasing process, we want to make sure our pilots and staff have the appropriate IT infrastructure. I am committed to ensuring we are keeping up with the times, and we are actively soliciting proposals from outside consultants for a top-down best practices review of our information and technology resources. A second set of eyes, similar to what we would say as pilots, with a different perspective, will allow us to get a better picture of what we need to do. Pilot volunteers and staff work to ensure we have a robust leadership training conference available to our new reps every year. However, feedback shows it's time to review how we train our next generation of representatives. Sean will lead this review with the help of the leadership committee, and I'm proud to be pulling Tyler back in, as I said, to share his ideas in the process. We will also continue to review and update our governing documents so our processes are more reflective of the needs and demands of our membership. While this is not an inclusive list, I am not content to let it be always has it been. How it's always been is our guide. Rather, I am committed to making sure we understand both our strengths and our weaknesses so we can be proactive about providing better representation and support to both you and our members. Thank you for all of the work to help lead this union and support our members. Every late night call, every meeting, every crew room visit, and email is paying off in measurable ways for the success of your union. I commend each and every leader in this room for your unity and your commitment to ALPA. This year, we are rolling out a new campaign to identify and celebrate ALPA volunteers. Wendy approached me earlier this year asking me about using materials branded Ask Me to identify ALPA volunteers. She heard about this concept being used by PAL Airlines and Air Borealis, and I thought it was a great idea, with the potential to do even more to recognize our volunteers to help recruit future leaders. We want to help our members find answers to their questions and strengthen their connection to our union while celebrating the people like you who have stepped up for your union. This initiative will bolster our mentorship work and recruitment of volunteers and is a perfect complement to the ongoing P2P program. With a significant portion of our members hired in the last half-decade, we need to continue education about why our union is vital, as well as encourage the next generation of volunteers to pay it forward. As those of us in this room know all too well, it is up to us to hold the industry accountable and advance the profession. You'll hear more about this program from Sean, who continues to work with the National Resource Coordinator, Jade Shiwi, on our mentorship initiatives. The accomplishments of the association over the past 2 years cannot be overstated. We have grown, defined policy decisions at the highest levels of government, fulfilled our role as international leaders in the labor movement and aviation safety, negotiated some of the strongest contracts in the history of our industry, and return value to our members unlike ever before. However, we will not let up. We will keep pushing together to move our industry and our profession forward. We will fight for contracts our members have earned at airlines like FedEx and ATI, who have been in negotiations far too long. We will block single pilot and reduced crew operations with every barrier possible. We will continue to grow. We will continue to make sure pilots and safety are at the center of decisions regulators make. We will expand our influence in the global labor and aviation industry. And we will continue to look for ways to maximize our members' return on their investment while continuing to be good stewards of our resources and reducing dues obligation. While we have made significant progress, sisters, brothers, friends, our work is far from done. With your help, together, we are improving the lives, careers, and industry for our members. And together, we will continue moving forward. Thank you.